Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dhruv, and I'm the host of the Bugyan podcast. At the Bugyan podcast, we network, speak with industry leaders, people in cybersecurity, learn about their careers, and see how that can be implemented in our own careers, learning from their experiences, learning from their knowledge, learning from their journeys. Today, fortunately, we have with us Manoj. He is currently serving as the head of information security at a very popular and a fast-growing company called Shiprocket. Manoj has also previously worked at Microsoft, Reliance, PwC, and really has a interesting career building up to a more senior leadership role. So Manoj, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to learning about new things from you. If possible, would love to have a quick introduction from your side as well.
Sure, Dhruva. First of all, thank you so much to you and the entire team for giving me this opportunity to share my journey and my learnings. Quick introduction about myself. So I bring in close to about a decade of experience all into cybersecurity. And as you rightly mentioned, I am fortunate enough to kind of work in various sectors across industry. I mean, Reliance, Geo, then PwC, moved to Microsoft, was with KPMG for good 3 years, and then was again with Microsoft for a very short stint, and then last almost 2 years now I'm with Shiprocket. And in the entire 10 years of career, of course, I mean, I have been into various roles. I mean, I have worked on vulnerability management piece, I have worked on data security, and being in consulting, I have worked on various aspects of cybersecurity, which include SIM, SOC, SOAR, automation, providing advisory to our customers. And KPMG role was very, I would say, very close to my heart. The reason is that was the journey when I transformed from an individual contributor to a managerial to a leadership role. Understood. So that was the first, I would say, pivot in my career, where I kind of see myself growing from an IC to a manager or a leadership position, because both the journeys are very different, And post that, yeah, I mean, it's all going well. So that's at a high level about myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Manoj. So, just to kick off and building on what you directly said, I'm very curious to understand what is it that, drew you to cybersecurity as a space? Because as we all know very well that there is no real degree in cybersecurity. Right. It's all just out of personal interest or looking at someone as a mentor that many people enter the space, and many security engineers and bug bounty hunters who look at this podcast as well have that in play. Right. They never really had a formal education. They just found it out of interest. So very curious to understand what drew you into the field, how your entire journey from a security engineer into a CISO role kind of came in play, and what is your, how has it turned it out into your current role at Shiprocket?
Sure. So first of all, I mean, I would like to kind of respectfully disagree to the point that there is no dedicated InfoSec or CyberSec degree. Yeah. That was the case actually when I was kind of graduating from my engineering, and I'd done my BTech from SR University, Chennai, way back in 2010 when I was graduating. At that point in time, InfoSec or CyberSec oriented courses were very less. And I mean, to be very honest, entire my 4 years, I used to always contemplate that whether I have to be a developer or a tester or into network side of the world, So there was no clear path for InfoSec or CyberSec, at least in India, that we were aware of, right? And any other engineer, I got campus recruited. I was allocated a particular domain. I started working in that. And then in a couple of months, I somehow realized that this is something that I'm not really enjoying, and I don't want to continue doing this as my career, because job should be something that should motivate you every morning that, yes, I want to go to office with full energy, right? Correct. Your job should at the end of the day, when you're about to sleep, you should be satisfied saying, yes, I know what I've done and I'm really excited about tomorrow, right? Correct. So I was not getting that charm in that role, and I started thinking, what should I do, And again, 2010, 11 days when there was no GPTs, there was not much of internet stuff, finding what should be the right career path was not that easier, And also coming from a very average middle-class family, I am the first engineer at that point in time in my family. So not really a mentor somewhere very nearby whom I can look up to. So I started asking with my colleagues, my seniors in that organization, saying, I'm not enjoying this. What should I do? And honestly speaking, at that point in time, I saw in the same office, on the same floor, there were a few people who got a kind of a very closed door access And everyone was curious what this team does, right? And then I got to know, oh, they are into information security. At that point in time, it was called network security.
Correct.
So that was the first day I heard something about security, And then I started doing a research, and then I got to know, okay, there are a few IITs, there are a few NITs and BITs, I mean, bits of the world in India, who provides specialization course for masters.
Mm.
And then I did my research and I got to know, okay, there is a path. If I want to pursue my MTech in information security, there are the list of colleges who offer these kind of courses. And this could be one way to get into InfoSec. And in that entire journey, in 10, 15 days, I also researched about what is information security, what is network security, and I also got to know about hackers and all. So that kind of excited me, saying, I think this sounds interesting,
Mm-hmm.
And then I enrolled into my master's at BIT Mishra, and I got my MTech in information security done, right? So and since then to now, as I said, I've worked all in cybersecurity. I was fortunate enough to get selected as an intern, which gave me kind of the validation that yes, this is something that I like. Because when I was doing internship, the career was not set, but that was the opportunity to be in the office, work with the people and see what they're doing, right? So I started as an intern in SOC, Security Operations Center. I started seeing, oh, this is the IP, this is how they detect an alert, this is how they kind of analyze and say this could be a potential bad traffic. And somehow I started loving that stuff. So then I said, now I know what I want to do, right? And then since then to now, fast forward, as I said, I worked in various domains. And one thing which many people kind of ask me, that you have done too many switches, like in 9, 10 years, 4, 5 companies. And the reason for that was I'm not a person who can settle down with things which is very mundane, right?
Right.
So if I've done SOC for like 8, 9, 10 months, if I understood a bit of it, I need something else to kind of keep me motivated, right? So then I got into VAPT. I've done lots of vulnerability assessments, not much into PT because I have a different level of respect for them. PT is really a very skilled thing. I'm not a pen tester and I'll not claim myself to be one, but yeah, doing a VA gave me a good. And what I did is I used to correlate my learning from one domain to another. Like when in SOC, I've seen what is reconnaissance. I have used that doing vulnerability assessment, right? When I was doing a data security role, I kind of thought that what a hacker will do at the end of the day, a hacker will either try to disturb my service continuity, right? Or they'll try to exfiltrate the data. So I used all my learning from SOC and vulnerability assessment when I was doing my data protection journey. Right? So similarly, all these learnings I stitched together and I was using it in my consulting days. When a client used to ask me, Manoj, this is my use case, what all could be the potential risk? Now, since I have seen SOC, I have done VA, I have done data protection, I can correlate all these risks, and then I can tell them, hey, you know what? There could be a potential risk for data exfiltration, which can happen because one of your application is not secure. And if you really want to monitor that, you can go back to your SOC and you can see what kind of traffic is coming in.
It makes you the best threat modeler out there, right? Just having
yes, now the word threat modeler exists, but yeah, way back then, I mean, while people were kind of questioning me, why you're doing so many hops, I was seeing there is a learning. There is definitely a growth that I'm seeing because I'm using all the learnings across to stitch it together and giving a perspective to my customers.
Right. That's exciting, Manoj. I think overall, the point that you said that it's very exciting to anyone that being a hacker, just being, do cybersecurity, it's very exciting for people to know about and to say to anyone that, okay, I do cybersecurity at my company because it's a very non-standard role. And keep exploring different kinds of opportunities, correlating different spaces. That's the way the overall space is evolving. I mean, if one person is just sitting with the knowledge that they have for 10 years, within a year only, their knowledge will become obsolete because the space is also changing so fast. Staying up to date is extremely important. So it's nice to see that the same logic that was going on back there is something that people continue to do now. Manoj, my second question is around getting hired. So a lot of the people who watch this podcast are security engineers or students who are very excited about cybersecurity and are maybe at that stage wherein they're at a job that maybe they're not too excited about and they saw cybersecurity and they try to get into it. Many people try to do hack the box and things like that. But what many people don't do is build out an online profile, talk about them as a hacker and so on. So I wanted to understand from you as a security leader, how importantly do you think it is to build a profile in cybersecurity? beyond just your portfolio or your resume, or like build an online presence? How has it helped you, maybe? And if you had to hire a candidate, would you look at their presence or their overall influence in the overall cybersecurity arena?
Sure. So I'll divide this question into two. A, why and how it is important to build a persona over internet than just a piece of resume, right? So see, for example, right, while we are not promoting any platform, but for example, let's say LinkedIn, okay? I created my profile in 2011 because someone told me that's the place where you can find like-minded people. That's the place you can find topics of your interest. You can follow them, and then you can understand that what's happening in industry. Way back 2011, I'm talking about. Now there are plenty of platforms, including podcasts in place, right? So how that has helped me, I'll tell you. First of all, that gives you access to follow any leader. Say, for example, if I have to find my leader whom I want to, kind of really be like that, I can go and see their career journey, right? Say, for example, if I want to be a CISO, if I'm a fresher, if I want to be a CISO, I can go and search probably all CISOs on LinkedIn. I can see their profile. I can see their journey. You'll find few CISOs who are organically grown in one organization, made it to CISO, very successful. You can see people like me who have been hopping jobs, but made into a profile like CISO. So you can get, I mean, the learning or the potential to explore things is unlimited if you are on internet, right? If I would have not been on LinkedIn, I would have a very small set of mentors whom I know in person. I would be dependent on them. I would have given them call. I want to know this. I want to ask that. If he or she is available, they would have been kind. They would have guided me. But if I'm on LinkedIn, I can simply go and ask my question, right? I can go and connect with people. I can drop them in DM. So my entire circle of InfoSec influencers increased from one office, one city, one country to global.
Right.
So it's very important. Now, coming to your second question, if I have to hire someone, I definitely look at their LinkedIn profile. I must admit that fact. And I look for 3-4 things I'll tell you. First of all, how much keen you are to kind of pursue InfoSec as your day-to-day task, right? If someone's profile looks only 5 connects, not very active, 0 posts, then my first question would be, then how, I mean, in interview, I've faced situations where I've met fantastic guys, fantastic person, and we have hired them also. But then my first question was, how are you ensuring that you're learning the emerging threats?
Right.
What are the things that you're following? People may say, I follow XYZ blog, I follow a few people on Twitter. Again, I said LinkedIn is just one name, right? As long as they have something on the internet where they are sharing their thoughts, where they are following others' thoughts and are involved in that conversation, that gives me a very strong confidence saying, yes, this person is an advocate of InfoSec. That is first piece. Second piece, when you go and read about people's perspective, when you share your comments against someone post or vice versa, the ability to think beyond your own thought process increases significantly, right? Someone comments on the same topic in a different perspective. When I will read that, I'll think, oh yeah, that is also a possibility, right? So in earlier days, companies used to have, board of directors, where various people come and sit together and they brainstorm stuff, right?
Right.
You can do the same thing on LinkedIn. If I am facing a problem, I can put a statement saying, help ask, this is the use case, requesting all the industry leaders to share a perspective. That has helped me personally many a times, right? So that is the power of it. So definitely I go and look for online persona. And as I explained, there are definitely significant benefits of breaking the silo, go boundaryless, and meet people, understand their perspective, and discuss the ideas.
Understood. And that's very interesting, Manoj. And that's what people say for conferences as well nowadays, that, you go there, you can look at the talks. That's great. But until you don't go there and talk to people, what are you exactly doing? You can see the conference online. And it's extremely important to show your intent in growing the community and learning from the community as well. And your point regarding actually going about and publishing articles, showing your intent in cybersecurity is extremely important, because as we discussed earlier, if you don't stay up to date, you're gonna fall behind. So that is extremely interesting to all the people who would be watching this podcast, and I hope they will continue to build out their profiles so that they eventually get to potentially work with you as well. Manoj, my next question is around, you've done consulting, right? I also have bit of a background in consulting. I was working at Deloitte previously, and then you're now at a fast growing startup. I wouldn't call it a startup now; it's such a large team at Shiprocket, but it must be very different. So, very curious to understand, how consulting is different from the product security work that you do over here at Shiprocket, and how has it overall, evolved according to you?
Sure. So I think, see, for me, as I said in the beginning, for me, it is working great because, as I said, I have been hopping from industry to consulting, industry to consulting. In consulting, what we get is a width of knowledge. You work into risk and compliance domain, you work into threat hunting, you work into threat modeling, you are doing advisory, you are helping customer in doing POC. So you do a lot of stuff, right? In industry, changing from one team to another is relatively difficult. But in consulting, one engagement to another engagement, say, for example, if I'm helping a bank in strategizing their data security posture, another bank, even if the scope of work is same, but the bank is different, the ecosystem is different. One bank is running completely on premises, another bank is on cloud, hybrid cloud, blah, blah, blah. Their strategy is different, right? So in consulting, the advantage is when you work from one project to another, you are getting diverse learning, right? On the other hand, when you're in industry, you get the opportunity to go as deep as you want, what we call as vertical learning, right? You become an SME in your own domain, you become the champion, right? But when you come to a leadership position, right, it's just the width of the knowledge won't help. It's just the depth of one or two domain won't help. Because as a head of InfoSec or as a CISO, you are responsible for the entire InfoSec or CyberSec portfolio, right? That is application security, API security, data security, cloud security, governance, risk, compliance, data privacy, right? While no one individual can be a champion in all, but you need to have that level of depth of understanding so that with the help of people with you, you can drive it holistically, right? And most importantly, for a CISO or for head of InfoSec perspective, it doesn't matter whether one of your application is vulnerable, whether one of your S3 is unprotected. For the person, it's the organization's security posture. Right. So this person should have the vision to stitch it together, see a bird's eye view that how my entire organization looks from 30,000 feet height, and then double click and go into that level of detailing saying, I want to fix this. Okay, my application security team, please take this up. Okay, here's risk in cloud. My cloud team, my DevSecOps team, please take care of this. Okay, maybe this regulatory needs a bit of more process development. My compliance person, please look into that, right? But the CISO or the head of InfoSec need to have that level of expertise across the domain so that they can deep dive into that with the help of right people in the team.
Understood, Manoj. That's very interesting. And just beyond this, I have another question. Is it that, as a CISO, of course, this point that you pointed out is extremely important, that an individual vulnerability may not matter, but the overall risk that the organization faces matters. How would you go about quantifying that risk per se, right? How would you say that, okay, out of 10, where am I? And how do you identify those? How do you prioritize those, things that you need to fix? Because of course, a team is always limited. You cannot have everything being fixed at once. And I don't think there's any tool in the market that can promise absolute security. Right? There's no vendor that can say that. How is it that you go about, analyzing your posture, associating a score with it, and prioritizing the risks?
Sure. I think the best, or maybe the industry best practice is not the best. Industry best practices is always you should look from your risk perspective and then work backwards. Say, for example, for a bank or for a financial institute, the biggest risk is someone might be motivated to do some fraud or some hack to kind of steal money, right? So their main target would be their internet facing applications. If they are able to penetrate into that, and if they are able to get into your system and do some changes, they can do the changes. So the risk lies with all your web application, right? On the other hand, say, for example, if a SCADA or a industrial control system, the risk lies in your plants, right? So the first thing anyone should do is understand your risk, and then work backward, right? And then identify what are your low-hanging fruits, or maybe you can say the fundamental security requirements. And the same thing, I mean, the terminologies might different. You go to NIST, you go to ISO, you go to SOC 2. While all of these has different terminologies, but from a control perspective, if you see, fundamentally, everyone talks about the same thing, which is strong identity and access management.
Correct.
That means you should always operate in a principle of least privileges, give access which is limited to do the work, right? And give role-based access. So identity and access is one of the pillars. Your endpoint security, the machine on which we operate, securing that endpoints is another principle. Securing your workloads, which is either your server or cloud, is another, because you store all the data there, be it physically, be it on cloud, the entire data is at your workload, right? Correct. That is the third thing. Then, so these are the three core principle of your InfoSec posture, right? Now, how do I understand that I am doing good or bad? That is when continuous audit comes into picture. The continuous risk quantification comes into picture. That, okay, while I'm saying my identity access is very good, how can I quantify that? How can I really understand that? It works like the same, the speedometer in your car. When I say that, okay, I'm driving in my limits, my dad does what? He looks at the speedometer and
tells
says,
that, yeah, it's actually not in the limit.
80 is fine, don't go above that. Correct. The same work is done by my risk management team or any risk management team. They keep on looking at how effective are your controls. And if there is a risk, you need to fix it, right? So that is the second pillar. And then the third pillar is definitely, which is equally important, adhering to all your compliance requirements. Say, for example, telco, DOT has their own regulatory requirements. BFSIs, RBI, Revit, they have their own compliance requirements. If you're into health sector, HIPAA has its own compliance requirement, right? If you're into payments, PCI plays a role. So then identifying your compliance or your regulatory obligations and ensuring you are complying to that. So these are the three core pillars. Among these three core pillars, as I said, endpoint, workload, and my identity, right? And then if you click, you will see patch management, you will say vulnerability, all that comes into picture. I mean, we can go to as depth as possible.
But the core pillars still remain the three.
Yes.
That makes sense. It's very interesting. I was also talking to Hilal from Razorpay recently, who's a CISO. He was talking about something called compliances code. Right. So, of course, as a fintech company, they have to adhere to all these compliances in the world, but they're trying to codify everything to a great length. And I was telling him, you should maybe sell this as a product. But regardless, talking about compliances, Manoj, recently, everybody is talking about the PDPD bill, right? Which act,
DPDP.
should I say, right? DPDP Act. And that's become extremely popular. And all in all, everyone is considering it as a very good move that the government has taken, the mighty has taken. Would love to know, your thoughts on the entire bill. How do you think it will impact the overall security ecosystem? And how important do you think it is that everybody should be having controls in place for that? Because from what I read, the liability on it is extremely high, right, in the scale of multiple crores of rupees.
So it's definitely a very good move. India should have, I mean, this kind of, act or bill in place, because see, if you see the quantity of data that we are publishing every day, every minute, the level of digital adoption in India, given our size of country, I mean, the kind of digital footprinting or digital content creation we are doing every second is cannot be compared with any other country, right? So in this scheme of thing, understanding what data is important, and most importantly, what data can kind of lead to either associating an individual or identifying an individual, that becomes very, very critical. So definitely this is a very positive move by government, most, I would say, welcomed by every organization. Coming on the penalties or the technicalities or implementation challenges and all, I think at this point in time, when we are talking, the bill is still at it's an act, right? It's a high level statement, right? I'm sure there will be cuts or there will be controls that will be released very soon. And I am extremely confident that those will be aligned to a level that we all will be comfortable to adapt to that journey. Now, why that is important and what changes that will bring in a company, I'll talk about that. First of all, if you see, everyone in India almost has a mobile phone in their hand, right? If you see any of the application, when we install the app, it asks for n number of, consent. Give me access to your photo, give me access to your camera, give me access to your phone book,
album, everything,
etc. Right? Many of people still don't look into that what all consent I'm giving. They just said, I want this app, next, done. Right? But you understand the power of mobile devices these days. We use the same mobile phone for UPI transfer. We use the same mobile phone for using social media platforms, right? So the mobile devices have become extremely powerful these days, right? And this move will definitely streamline controls at organizations. At the same time, this move will also educate people. I mean, you won't believe, I was talking to a few people in industry, they were saying that this will definitely going to bring in a question in every individual's mind that what is PII?
Correct.
What is this bill and act? So even a common people, a very normal average class people, I mean, average class means technically average class. I mean, those who are not very tech savvy, not into IT, a very normal user, will also now be curious to understand what is this and all. And at least they will try to look into one level of detail. Either they are filling a form, they are subscribing to any app or whatever, whatnot, right? So this will definitely bring in a lot of awareness, which is extremely important because any system cannot function one way. I mean, it cannot happen that only the organizations will build all the controls. Even the subscriber, the users also need to understand their responsibility
and follow the
to
comply.
to comply with these kind of things. So country like India, I think this is a fantastic move to bring everyone at speed to understand data is really important. And you should understand what data you're sharing. You should understand who is collecting what and so forth. So this is definitely a strong thing. From a control and penalty perspective, I think penalty is, in my view, penalty is just a driver for people to be serious about that.
Of course.
I mean, if you see, if I'm not driving with seat belt, there is a heavy fine,
Yeah.
Many people does that because if I'll not do that, there is a policeman, they'll catch, they'll do a challan. But at the hindsight of it, it is giving me safety and security. If I'll get hit, my airbags will open up. Correct. If I have not put in a seat belt, airbag will not blow, right?
Correct.
So while yes, many people will see at the penalty and they'll get afraid. But when I see the silver lining, I strongly feel that's a very positive move because that will give a lot of seriousness in people to do the implementation in an effective manner to ensure that everything is safe and secure.
So that makes sense, Manoj. And your point regarding penalties being good, I think that's how India works, really, right? There needs to be a challan on everything for people to follow, and that really works in a good way to educate people as well, to a good extent. Eventually, of course, people will understand that it's something that they should do regardless of there being a fine or not. But at least the scale of people that there are in India, implementing controls like these is effective, right? What can we say beyond that? So Manoj, wanted to understand more from your end, with regards to education, and we are talking from a consumer level, right? Saying that cybersecurity is important, but the reality is that many startups even don't invest in cybersecurity because it may not be that much important to them. An everyday person will not say that, okay, cybersecurity is something that is important. Of course, we would love to see the days when PII is as a word that everybody has at the tip of their tongue, but that is not true right now, right? So what is it that, according to you, wherein at what point should people start treating cybersecurity seriously? First, people, and then, of course, startups. At what scale do they reach when they start implementing, hardcore controls? Because, of course, everybody can implement an ISO 27001 or a SOC 2 Type 2 nowadays. But actually ensuring that everyone is following those controls is extremely important. And maybe at what scale should someone hire someone for a security roles, especially? What do you think about that?
So I think question about people, I'll give the same standard answer that I have been repeating since ages. Security should be everyone's responsibility. It cannot be a team, a department, a function in a company, right? It should be everyone's responsibility, and everyone should contribute to make an organization secure. Because if you just flip the statement, if I have implemented controls for all my employees, and if there is one simple click on a phishing link, can compromise the entire organization, right? So everyone is equally important, and it should be everyone's responsibility. That is the message I always give to everyone, and that is the mantra I always carry with me, saying InfoSec should be everyone's, not should be, it is everyone's responsibility, right? So that is one. Coming to especially on startup piece, that what should be the right time to look infosec seriously and how they can go about. See, before answering this question, I'll kind of try to talk about startups because this was my first startup experience, and I was amazed to see the kind of innovation, the kind of speed, about the thoughts, the use cases, and all startup does. I mean, they are really fast. They're really fast, and the USP, the mantra of success for a startup is how fast you are to understand someone's use case, customer's problem, and then build a solution to kind of provide a solution around that, right? So innovation is the key at startup, and that's the only thing by which they can survive and they can succeed and they can kind of grow further. And security should never be a roadblock in innovation. That's what I feel. I strongly feel that startups may not have, and in fact, recently I've written a blog on my LinkedIn to talk about what should be an ideal strategy for infosec or cybersec for startups, because I strongly feel that's an area where we need to come up and work together as one team. Because I mean, now in last 2 years, I have got an opportunity to talk with various startups who are as small as a 10 people company operating from an incubation center or a shared WeWork kind of setup, to a mid-sized startup, to companies like Shiprocket, right? And I realized that everyone is solving one or the other very important use case, which is supporting one or the other enterprises. So it's like startups have become a log into the entire bigger scheme of things. That means they are also important, right? Now the question comes, I don't have money to invest, for example, right? To answer that question, while I understand infosec needs money, infosec needs tool, technology, blah, 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 but the starting phase is not always very expensive. All it needs is a mindset that I should think about security by design, or I should think how we can start incorporating security from day zero, right? And there are plenty of open source tools, I mean, you won't believe, even at Shiprocket, the initial couple of months, I used lots of open source solution to first validate my own hypothesis. Say, for example, if I'm saying cloud security is my challenge, is my risk, right? How I can quantify this statement of mine? So I've used an open source platform to measure the security of my cloud posture. I did that for like a monthly basis for 2-3 months. When I observed that, yes, there are consistent gaps on one or two domains, then I went ahead to my boss and I said, hey, this is my hypothesis that cloud security is important. In cloud, these are the 18 types of security that needs to be looked upon. I have used this ABC tool. I have done a security effectiveness testing for month 1, month 2, month 3. And even if I'm trying to work hard with my DevOps team, there are still 1 or 2 repeat or kind of gaps which was reported earlier, which is again open now. So now I need a continuous monitoring posture or a platform that can give me in real-time visibility about my cloud, right? So I think it all should start from a mindset that yes, security is our responsibility. It might not lead to a full-time CISO role in that organization when they are in the build-up phase, but at least among the team, someone can take a co-ownership saying, I'll also start doubling up as an infosec person. And at least at my own area, be IFM and DevOps, I'll think from cloud security. Someone from developers team should think from a code security, application security perspective, right? So if that is how, if we divide accountability, even in the smaller of the smallest startups, if people will take up those responsibility, because once they need to first understand, right, that yes, there are risks, and then we acknowledge that yes, we also can be a target. No matter we are 10 people company, 5 people company, because at the end you're solving a use case. You're giving a solution to maybe hundreds and thousands of users or maybe 10 organizations, right? So, and at times, I mean, especially after the Lockheed Martin, when the entire, APT, the advanced persistent threat came into picture, that you might not be the direct target, but someone can target you to target the actual end client, right? So acceptance of security, that's the first thing, which is free. This does not need any investment.
No investment.
Be dividing and giving this as a double up responsibility to not one, but series of people in the organization to look, say, you take care of, because you anyways doing DevOps, also do DevSecOps. Developers or QA, you anyways doing functional testing, UAT, why
security testing.
do a security testing as well, right? And there are open source solutions everywhere. And thanks to, GPTs of the world, you just need to do a search and you will have all the tool name, technology, and implement that. But it all comes to mindset. And to answer your question, that should come as early as possible. And the reason is, the more you grow, the complication or the complexity of your system grows. The involvement, the use cases that you're solving, your number of subscribers increases, right? If I have to take a downtime for a solution which is being used by 5 people, is relatively easier than taking a downtime, say, for an application which is being used by 10 lakhs people. For example, if WhatsApp need to take a 5 minutes downtime, think about the communication that they have to send to all subscribers.
Of course.
Versus if a chat platform which is only used by, say, 10 people right now, right? So I think the early you understand, the early you adopt, it will actually help you as an organization to kind of save a lot of effort later on, because the more you grow, fixing things will be more complicated for you.
Of course, Manoj, I think your mantra around security by design, I think if everyone in an organization kind of follows that, whatever they're designing, right? Maybe a sales system or anybody is configuring something, writing something from scratch, doing DevOps. That is a value that I think every CEO, startup CEO needs to incorporate in all of their employees. And as long as that is there, you're already minimizing on the number of threats that can come in the future. If you deploy all your ISO SOC 2, that'll be great to have. That'll improve your security. But as long as you're thinking from that perspective, that can come and play very, very strong. And your idea around open source tools is very true. I think I've seen that firsthand, that every vendor that has a paid product, there is an open source alternative to it, right? And at an early stage, of course, you can't evaluate such high value vendors, but of course you can test out the open source software, you check it out, run it against your software, see how well it performs. Nowadays the integrations are very good as well, and then based on that, if you see a value in the future, you will on your own invest in it. Kind of taking on from this, Manoj, often leaders in the overall security space see this problem of build versus buy, right? As you were discussing. How do you kind of tackle that problem? Do you try to build out information security solutions in-house, or do you generally prefer engaging with a vendor or modifying open source software? How do you look at that side of things?
So we have taken a hybrid approach, okay? And I strongly feel that should be the right approach for any organization, because of 2 reasons. Every organization has a bit of things which is self-developed, which is not a COTS product which can straight away fit in and integrate with any of your existing products, right? So see, implementing InfoSec or CyberSec solution is not a standalone task. It's not a firewall that you will bring in, you'll procure, put in your LAN cable, input, output, your firewall is working. Days are gone. The real effectiveness of your solution is how easily or how seamlessly you are integrating with 10 other components, and how interoperable you are. For example, if I have to, I'm talking about, say, log management piece, right? If 80% of my logs are coming from in-house application, then you should need a SIM solution which has ease to integrate log sources from diverse sources. If you go to a solution, if you go to a OEM which says, I have a syslog collector, and 80% log I want in syslog, that means you need to sit and write a lot of custom connectors for the SIM solution. Right? So even if you are buying a product, which is a very high value, renowned product, but at the end, what you're doing, you are custom making your parsers to ingest your log, right? So I think the right strategy should be hybrid solutions which can natively integrate, because the beauty lies in integration. I'm saying again, whatever can integrate with your ecosystem, go for that. Things where you see you have done a lot of customization and these off-the-shelf product might not work, in those use cases, we should definitely go for build, because that is tailor-made for the way the use cases I want to operate in my organization, right? So that's what we are following here. And in fact, as I said, I early started taking all open source first, and then realized, okay, this cannot be achieved, because when you are self-developing also, you are investing a lot of time.
Correct.
And the reality is, say, for example, if I will invest 10 years from now and I'll make a product equal to a leader because they are already in 10 years in market. I mean, for example, threat intel feeds. I can start collecting feeds from 100 open sources and enrich it over the time. But by the time I'm enriching, it is already obsolete. And on the other hand, if you see enterprise grade thread feed providers, they are in that industry since last 20 years. That their data set is like huge, right? So we need to understand, yes, technically we can build it, but how effective that solution is, right? So we need to understand those use cases and then determine use cases which can integrate, use cases which need lots of expertise and kind of revolution over the years. We should not put our energy in rebuilding them.
Understood, Manoj. I think that makes a lot of sense. And of course, if something is interoperable, it can directly work with your integrations. People should directly deploy that. And it comes again to the initial point that you were talking about, that if there is something so specific to your business logic or what you do, that there is no solution out there that is protecting that. But the impact of a vulnerability coming in or an exploit coming in over there is so high, you must build it out in-house. And that hybrid approach makes a lot of sense, because many vendors, of course, that integration may not be there, but that flow of data is always coming in. So that is a very interesting point from your end. Manoj, my next question is around AI. So I think AI is a buzzword nowadays. Sam Altman and all is happening on Twitter. But we've seen, and everybody's seen hands-on, that AI for vulnerability development is also very good, right? So the new threats that are really coming in and the new APTs that are coming in are deploying AI to a great length. And the pace at which good AI development is going up, you would imagine the pace of bad AI development will also go up accordingly. So how do you see this impacting, what CISOs are working on, or, working on in the future? Do you think this is something that should be left up to the vendor who is helping you out? Or as a CISO, do you think any specific controls or any policies that another CISO should follow can help by, tackling this future AI threat?
Sure. So I think my answer to this question is going to be in three folds. Okay. First of all, but before that, a bit of foundation, like you rightly said, AI is there. Now you use it in a positive manner, ethically, or you use it to build exploits, use it in non-ethical manners and all that stuff. It is a platform. And this can be used either side, right?
Correct.
And unfortunately, if you see the level of correlation and collaboration on the good side of people is much more weaker than the collaboration if you see amongst hackers, right? I mean, you can go and see any dark web. If any of those, bad guys has developed something or can discover something, they go and they socialize that enough that anyone who want to leverage that, come and leverage that. Right. Let's not reinvent the wheel, which is not the case in our case, where say all the CISOs, unfortunately, all the CISOs come together, they talk, hey, you know what, I'm using AI for this. Do you want, I can share my use cases. Let's go build it. Those kind of collaboration is missing, which is making it a win-win for attackers, because by the time we will work in silos, we'll work in pockets, by the time they are more collaborated, they are more consolidated, and they'll be much faster than us, right? So that is a reality I want to kind of talk upon. That's why I first talked about this. Now coming to the question, to answer threefold thing, users of AI is at three places. One, definitely, like you mentioned, the vendor, the product companies of the world, everyone is now talking about my product is using AI, my product is using AI, right? It is very important for us as a consumer to understand what is the use case that you're trying to solve using AI, right? I understand AI can be used, or this kind of, GPT kind of use can be used to kind of in SOC environment, or where you have workflows, you can automate your piece, you can automate your documentation and everything. You can make a knowledge-based chat GPT kind of stuff for your SOC, where I can just search what is this attack, and that can give me an easy answer to all my logs and everything. That is one piece. But all I'm trying to say is, we as a consumer should ask this question to all the vendor. While you're saying AI powered, what is that you're powering?
What is
AI?
it that is being powered?
Understand the use case. That is the first lens. Second lens would be in this rush of adopting AI everywhere. Even organizations are adopting these AI and all that stuff. As a security practitioner, we should also keep a guardrail with our product team saying, what are you developing with Gen AI or GPT? Let's understand how that can be exploited negatively.
Correct.
And I mean, recently, one of the organizations, I don't want to name them here, they kind of, one of the developer there uploaded the financial data in the name of data modeling.
Oh.
Right. So it is CISO's responsibility to educate the developers and the product people, saying, while yes, this is very helpful, but you should understand how to use it responsibly.
Of course.
Right? Responsible AI is the right way to adopt that. That is the second piece of it. And then the third, what you said in the beginning, even hackers are using it. So we also should understand, like, for example, the easier way to identify a phishing email, a year back was those emails were poorly written, the grammatical mistakes and all that stuff. Now it's so simple. A hacker will not waste even time, will say, draft a phishing email saying there is a Diwali campaign going on. Gen AI will give you the entire nice, well English written. They will copy, they will paste it, right? So this is now empowering them as well. So this is making it difficult for us. Having said that, on the other hand, there are positive uses as well, but we need to keep these three lenses open. How these solutions are powering, what are the use cases being powered by AI? B, internal consumption, wherever we are doing, are we using responsibly or not? And see how attackers can use it and how we can be ready that anything that has been developed by Gen AI, how we can be ready with those kind of threats.
Very interesting, Manoj. I think your point around the data people sending to GPT is quite interesting, because I've seen a lot of people do that as well, right? And in that end, a lot of these PII de-anonymization, layers have basically come in, and CISOs are discussing on whether they should actually implement commercial open source models or actually build out their own models, and then the conversations around costs come there. But as an information security leader, just establishing that, okay, this is a potential opportunity for someone to misuse us as well is extremely important. So that is interesting to hear from you as well. We'll wrap it up, Manoj. I don't think we should take too much time. We've kept it crisp and interesting for everyone. Very interesting ideas to learn from you. I have personally learned a couple of things as well on this podcast. Thank you so much for coming, and really appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dhruva and team. It was really a pleasure, and I hope that at least this podcast will motivate few students to kind of pursue their career here. This podcast may influence some of the security practitioners to kind of think from that wider lens, understand the risk, look from a bird eye view, and then kind of correlate rather than thinking about, I'm an app dev guy, I should only think about app security. I'm a DevOps guy, I should only think from. So it's high time for us to integrate, close our hands, and work as one team. And the mantra I want to end is, security is everyone's responsibility, and we all should accept and start practicing it in day-to-day life.
Of course, that is something that I will ensure that everybody is implementing in our company, and that's the gospel that I think all CISOs and CIOs are following around. So looking forward to building a more secure world. Thank you so much, Manoj.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.